Edit: to all of you who DM'd me to tell me about how beep great polyamory is, and that you're mad I gave it a bad name, you have issues if that's what you take away from this post. I believe it started when I was around 6 years old. My parents often had friends over in the house. I didn't know they were polyamorous off. One day I was outside playing, got hurt, and when I ran inside caught my parents making out with some random guy. They told me they have other adults that they love and it's a completely normal thing. Me being a child just accepted that. They gave up being secretive and their partners would constantly be around, even joining on outings. I remember that on my 10th birthday they invited 3 of their partners, one of who I'd never seen before, and for the rest of the day my parents just withdrew from my party and hung out with them. I never saw them doing anything explicit again, but they would kiss their partners, hug them, make flirty comments, something that would be normal between parents but with many more people. Sometimes I came home from school and my parents were gone and there was some random adult in our house. Some of them seemed surprised that my parents even had a child. I always hated it, but since my parents had told me this was normal, I assumed many adults probably did similar things, and that it's just an adult thing all kids hate. Later they had less partners and eventually seemed to stop. Not that I'd know for sure. I moved out with 17. I didn't think about it anymore. A year ago I started therapy. As usual, the topic of my upbringing came up and it brought back many feelings I wasn't aware of. I realized that although my parents were always good to me, I had never really felt close to any of them and still have a lot of resentment that they made me feel like I had to compete for my parents' attention with random strangers. A while ago, I visited them and they told me they are going to take part in a documentary about polyamorous families and that the producers would like to include interviews with the children, so they would love if I could agree and tell everyone that polyamory doesn't mess kids up. All my resentment bubbled up and I said that I cannot agree because I would not be able to say anything positive. My parents looked shocked and asked why, and I unloaded all that I always felt pushed aside. We barely had any family time without strangers intruding. It turned into an argument and I became loud and yelled that the truth is it did beep up and they shouldn't have had a child if their number one priority was beat the whole world. My mother cried and my father said I should probably leave. So I left and was shaken up for the rest of the week, but also felt regret because I've never made my mum cry before. Later my father sent me a message that was like, "We are sorry you feel that way. Can we have a calm discussion about this soon?" Even though I tried to, it's like I can't reply. This argument brought something very emotional up in me. AITA for hurting my parents over this, especially since I have never brought it up before. AITA for refusing to share a room with a 1-year-old, twin 2-year-olds, and a 4-year-old. So IF was recently invited up to my aunt and uncle's ranch house for the 4th of July and told I could bring a friend. Now this aunt and uncle have a pretty big house. A ranch house has 4 bedrooms with queen beds, the master bedroom, and the kids' room, which is a massive room with about approximately 6 beds and a loft. They've got a lot of land around the house too, so I was excited to get some time to goof off and run around with my friend. I know that other cousins are going to be there, and assume that my Aunt B and Uncle B thought beds through and everything like that. The other people invited up to the house were Aunt G and Uncle G and their son 16 male, who I'll call F, my Uncle P, and my aunt and Uncle H. H's are baby cannons. They have 4 kids under the age of 5, none of whom sleep through the night. Anyway, my friend and I get up to the house and learn that we are expected to share the big bunk room with the kids under 5, while their parents get their own room. Uncle P, Cousin F, and Aunt and Uncle G are also in their own rooms. I was upset. But wanting to stay up there, I said okay, my friend and I can sleep on the couch. Cue a massive explosion. The baby cannons are beep that I don't want to sleep in the same room as their children. Their kids are horrible at night and someone needs to watch them, so it should be me and my friend because I got to invite a friend. I said that if they wanted someone to, Cousin F could, but Cousin F apparently needed his sleep because he's a growing boy and he doesn't know how to take care of kids. None of the other people in the house wanted to get involved. The aunt and uncle who own the house didn't care much and just told us to figure it out. So I ignore the baby cannons and set up on the couch with my friend. Cue the baby cannon's mother. She throws all of our stuff off of the couches and tells me and my friend that we have to sleep with her kids or we can't stay. At this point, I'm mortified by her behavior because I have a friend. My friend is embarrassed and doesn't know what to do. So I tell them I'm leaving. Cue more screaming. I drove up my father's boat. If I leave, there's nobody with a truck to drive the boat around. The world is ending. I say that either my friend and I are sleeping on the couch without the small children or we're leaving. Well, baby cannons weren't okay with that. So I packed up my stuff, reattached the trailer for the boat, and left. Now I'm getting texts from relatives that I was rude and could have handled it better, and that the baby cannons need a break from their kids, and I'm young so I can be a nice family member and deal with it for them. AITA here. Update 7/1, my father has banned the baby cannon from ever going on the boat again. Aunt B is getting involved and is considering asking the baby cannon family to leave for the weekend and to not come back until they can be more considerate of relatives. Uncle B is offering to pay for me and my friend to go on a backpacking trip and says that he feels bad for how the baby cannons acted. AITA for not forgiving my husband for a mistake and not trusting him with our child. Throwaway account. And #200B. I gave birth to my daughter 6 months ago and it should have been the happiest moment in my life. When my daughter was born, her skin was very dark and looked like she could have 2 biological parents who were of African descent. My husband Jim, fake name, was furious and accused me of cheating and left right then and there. He told everyone on both sides of the family what happened, made posts on social media and wanted a divorce. His family and a lot of our friend all called to say how upset they were at me and called me really nasty names. My mother was by my side the entire time and I kept professing my innocence. Jim refused to pick me up from the hospital, threw my stuff out on the lawn and changed the locks, so I had to stay with my parents. When my sister called to ask for the baby stuff, Jim texted me pictures of the bare nursery room and said he got rid of everything. He even destroyed my art studio. I like to paint, and the art I made, and told me my work would be too awful to sell. I was distraught and tried to focus on my baby. Weeks went by and Jim refused to speak to me directly and has never once asked about our child. Eventually he agreed to do a paternity and he was 100% the father. No one could believe the results and it was done again. Jim's the dad. Around that same time, one of Jim's cousins did the ancestry thing, and there was around 30% of African ancestry in the family. This combined with the test, Jim's paternal great-grandmother admitted to having an affair around the time Jim's grandfather was born, and was because he could pass, she just assumed her husband was the father. Since then, Jim has been reaching out and everyone has come to apologize, and while it did feel good to feel vindicated, the damage has been done. I can't unhear or unsee all the horrible things that was said and done. Not just to me but to my child as well. Jim made some very racist remarks. Things that I thought he'd never say, and he did it so easily. Regardless of what our daughter looks like, I don't want her to be around that. What else will Jim and his family say or do the next time they get mad? How are they going to treat our daughter when she does something that upsets them? Jim has been begging for forgiveness. I said I needed time. He asked to see the baby and I let him, but I'm too afraid to physically hand her to him. He's repairing the nursery and keeps asking me what I would like, and I cry every time saying we already had what I liked, and some of the items that we had can't be replaced. He asked me if I still loved him and I admitted that he showed me his worst self, and I don't know if I could live with that image. I didn't mean to be hurtful, but it's how I feel. My sister suggested couples therapy, but I don't feel like I should have to work to fix something that I didn't break. I've never cheated and have been 100% innocent in all of this. The whole AITA for not wanting to give Jim a second chance. Update 1. I stepped away for a few hours and couldn't believe what I came back to. I am truly amazed by all the wonderful comments of support as well as the private messages. I also understand why some people may think this is fake, and all I can say is that you are free to believe what you want in this. I also see some questions, and I think I should clarify a few things just in case your judgment may change. When all of this initially happened at the near February, and I was already settled at my parents' house before the pandemic hit. 2. One of the reasons Jim wouldn't pick me up from the hospital was because I wouldn't admit to cheating or give him any details, because there weren't any, which made him angrier. 3. Based on the pictures Jim sent me, he didn't take a sledgehammer to the crib or anything. He just took stuff down to either return it for the money or gave it away. While deeply hurtful, I wouldn't call it violent, but maybe it is. 4. Online, he announced that I pushed out a dark-skinned baby and was going to divorce me. His family started with the racial comments, and eventually he started doing it too, but only through my family. He refused to speak to me directly. 5. Once the truth came out, everything he and his family posts were all taken down, but I, and a few friends, still have the screenshots. Jim never wrote down his racial remarks. 6. While he didn't say any of the racist words, he did make comments about our daughter being a welfare princess, and how I was going to be just another baby mama. 7. Just to clarify, Jim is white and I am at least half white. One of my parents is adopted, and with everything that's happened, they decided to do the ancestry thing too, and we should be getting the results any day now. Update 2. Spelling errors. Update 3. Ma denied separate posts, so it's here as an edit. Thank you so for all your words of encouragement a couple months back, both in posts and the DMs. A lot of things have happened since my initial post, and I just needed time to process it and be in a place where I can write about on social media. So here it goes. First, my parent who was adopted did the ancestry/23 thing, and it turns out that Jim wasn't the only one who had African ancestry. My parent had at least 45%, which means I have at least 20%. I am legally separated from my husband with primary custody, and I'm living with my parents until further notice. He still keeps apologizing and wants me to come back to the house. He even offered to leave so I could stay with our daughter, but I don't want to and really like having the support of my parents. My dad is retired, so he does a lot of the babysitting while my mother and I work remotely. I do go to the house every so often so Jim can see his daughter, and for couples counseling via telecom. In one of the sessions, Jim confessed something really hurtful, and some of you guessed right, he cheated. It was while we were dating before he proposed, and his treatment towards me was a projection. It was with an ex-girlfriend who had cheated on him, and he hooked up with her as an ego boost. He started to feel guilty but was too scared that I would walk away to ever confess. Jim also admitted that he was scared when I got pregnant, was very anxious about being a father, but just pretended to be excited because he didn't want to look like an A. My husband was so willing to believe that our daughter wasn't his because he thought he had an out. Now that he knows that our child is his, and has spent time with her, Jim regrets everything and just wants his family back and is willing to spend the rest of his life making it up to us. This was all deeply hurtful and I've cried about it more than once. Jim has been lying to me and my ability to trust him hasn't improved at all. When the holidays came around, Jim's parents asked about seeing their grandchild and I didn't want to. They told me that it was selfish of me to keep her away and I reminded them of their past. They said that they've already apologized and tried to minimize the situation. They said that I can't be angry forever and that I need to learn to forgive them. I'm so ashamed of ever loving and marrying into this family and wonder why I didn't see this before. I've decided to contact a lawyer and will be filing for divorce after my daughter's first birthday.